Okay, apparently it's live. Hey guys, welcome to another stream. This one's just going to be a chill one. I've got a few things that I worked on. I've got one thing I'm working on now. I will show. I'm going to share the whole screen. I'm working on a Jason Bright history. The red means bad races, and I add that after I'm done. I also worked on. Where is it? Working on Greg Murphy, going through extra data. I've got most of my how good was Greg Murphy video done, but then I wanted to go back and then go over things again, so it's going to take a little bit longer. And I was working on a how good was Jason Richards one, because I was just sort of curious, like, was he an incredible talent? And he was quite good at Team Kiwi. He wasn't too bad. He started putting some pretty great performances together. Then he went to Team Dynamic, where he struggled against Simon Wills, who was just way faster. And the only time that JR was impressive was at Sandown, and that one time he's come fifth at Oran Park, and that's about it. And they had like really fast cars, like It wasn't unusual to see him qualifying in the top 10, or at least Simon Wills qualifying in the top 10. But you see, JR did it twice, Oran Park and Gold Coast. And so JR went to Tasman and Simon Wills stayed at Team Dynamic, and Simon Wills continued to be impressive. And it made me think, how come we don't rate Simon Wills? And I think, well, maybe it was that 2007 season where he came back, or maybe he wasn't that good when he was in the cat car at Briggs. So I would like to go through data there, but when I was going through Jason Richards stuff, obviously he was up against Jamie Whincup in 05, and he he did quite well in terms of qualifying, obviously, but Whincup was just a bit more consistent. JR got more top 10s, but had a few crashes, engine failures, things that sort of messed up his year. And so that stuff was pretty interesting to be like, oh, okay, so, we thought Whincup came in and really took it to JR, and Whincup was the sensational talent. But it was just like a big improvement for Whincup, that's what it was. And he was consistent as well. Kept on scoring points all the time. Had, 3 DNFs compared to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for JR. Then JR was teammates with Andrew Jones, who wasn't that bad. Andrew Jones did pick up spots in races, so he wasn't shocking, but he obviously wasn't anywhere near as good as Jason Richards. Then JR was up against Greg Murphy and smashed him in qualifying. Then he was up against Cam McConville at Brad Jones. And I sort of thought, JR probably would have smashed Cam McConville because Cam McConville got smashed by Greg Murphy. And so, yeah, technically, like, I think it's only, one more time that JR out-qualified Cam McConville. So Cam wasn't too bad, but maybe JR wasn't that good. I don't know. But this is just how often they out-qualify one another. What? Not how often they qualify in the top 10. But McConville had a bit more bad luck, but it was still quite close in the championship into that last round at Sydney, where the double DNF for McConville. Then 2010, he's up against Jason Bright, and I haven't finished going through this, but Brighty's really good against JR, and so I want to do. That's why I'm looking at Jason Bright, because I was thinking about it, I'm like, I think we say that Jason Bright wasn't all that good, but I'm thinking, why do we think that? Because he was really good at Stone Brothers. He was really good at PWR, really good at FPR, really good at his own team, and then came back to Brad Jones and won races and did really well. And then obviously Fabian Coulthard started beating him, but this is like later in his career, so you wonder. Some of these more experienced drivers, like Jason Bright and Garth Tander, seem to struggle a bit more against their teammates in Car of the Future. And so maybe that's just like they were so used to the old generation car because they'd driven the cars into 2003 with Project Blueprint, and then 2003, 2012, driving them and doing very well in those cars. But yeah, I think Fabian Coulthard did start beating. Fabian Coulthard did start beating Bridie. He did beat him in 2012, but I wonder by how much. So I wonder if that'd be worth looking into. I think it'll all be worth looking into. But this is just going to be a chill stream. I got a cup of coffee. I've got some sausages. I've got some peanuts. Got a bottle of water. We're just going to chill and just work on this thing. And if you want to have a little chat about things or talk about news or whatever, you can just drop a message in the chat and we'll just do that for an hour. And when I'm done, then and there isn't anything going on, then I'll probably wind it up. Or wind it down, I mean. So where we at? Barbagallo. Yeah, we're done with Barbagallo. Race 2. It's interesting here. 1998, a lot of crashes that probably cost Jason Bright a better position in the championship. But in 99, he still had the speed, but I don't know. Looks like he might have had another crash. Oh, yeah, 4th down to 10th. What the hell happened? Not good. I think he would have been better in that second race. But sometimes a car will be really good in qualifying trim and have nothing in race trim. You picked up spots here. Eighth, not 4th. Crazy person. It's interesting that Jason Bright didn't get his first win in 1998 when Jason Bargwanna was able to do that. So I thought, well, Brighty was faster than Bargs, surely. So how come Bargs got the win at Darwin in 98? I think it was Darwin. Because Brighty was on pole too. He got disqualified. Maybe it wasn't Darwin. Might have been colder. I think he got the round win at Darwin. There we go. He got his first win at Darwin. John Bower put it on pole at QR. Good for him. It's annoying. It seems like Bridie often he'll qualify well, but then he'll just drop down the order. He regularly struggles with race pace, I think. Quarter. Bridie, what happened? Crash. God damn it. Always a crash with Bridie. That's interesting, is it? It's not the same race, is it? No, so Lowndes, Crompo and Richo were caught up in that first crash. Well, possibly or possibly not. Different issues, maybe. But Bridie looks like he's had a lap one crash as well. Did he finish? Did he start? Withdrawn, I think. Yep, withdrawn, damn. Yeah, a few of those guys withdrew. It might have been later that day or something, that race. Yeah, so Sunday, 2 Sunday races, not enough time. Right, 5th state, 5th, Tassie. Fifth to DNF. Lots of crashes. He's almost as bad as Jason Bargwanna. Fast, but a bit crash happy. And 24th to 14th. There's a DNF, not necessarily a crash. Could have been a mechanical issue. Where's Brody? Oh, second. Jeez. Fourth up to second at Winton. And Brody did get quite a few pole positions in 99. I think the only one he got in 98 was that one at Darwin, but 99 is a lot better. And Craig Baird was his co-driver, which is interesting. Because Beardo ended up taking over the seat the next year when Brighty went to do Indy Lights. 6 to DNF. No, that's it. Alright, so that 8th championship. That's what I thought. So down. He probably would have had like a way better year if he hadn't dropped, if he hadn't had all those DNFs, I think, and dropped positions in races. And then we got 2000 DJR. I'm going to make it orange, I think, which was just Bathurst, I think. I think in 2000, Dick Johnson, that was his last enduro. I think Bathurst was the only one that Bridie did that year, which I can easily check. somewhere. Where is it? Matt Neal did one, Jason Plato, Ivan Muller, Chucky Parsons, Jason Bright, 26, so that one podium. There we go. Fifth up to second. Now I've got all the data for Jason Bright for 2001 on the Mark Scaife one, and Brighty wasn't really that good in his first year at HRT. In his second year he was better. He got more. I think he got a couple of wins. He got 4 wins or something like that, and only 1 win in 2001. But he wasn't able to beat Scaife. But you don't expect him to beat a guy like Mark Scaife, because Scaife was at the top of his game, driving in his team, doing everything the way that he wanted to do it. Whereas Bridie came in and, obviously Bridie was highly rated, but he needed to change a lot of things the way that they went about running that car to make it a successful car. And he qualified quite well, quite regularly. I'll bring up the Scaife one. 2001. So he's Bright. It's barely qualifying in the top 10, like pretty much having a Will Brown sort of year. And just not often enough dragging that car where it needed to be. Whereas, Scaife was always up there, but then you've got, so they just had a terrible time at Calder Park, but Bridie did decently, but he probably should have been able to put the car up for a win. And they paired up for Queensland 500, and they separated for Bathurst. But yeah, just struggling there with that car. But then he's got it pretty sorted. Lots of front row starts. So that was really good, and out qualifying Bridie Scaife quite a few more times. So 5 times instead of 3 times in 01. So it just took. He had to change things to make things work for him. So, I think I can just copy things over. And over here, 02 you got Rick Kelly, 01 you've got Paul Romano. I want to look into what happened with Paul Romano in 2002, because he was disqualified from the championship for some reason. So I want to look up that. That'll be interesting. And I don't know if I'm going to copy and paste all this. There's a lot of entries and things going on. That's Rick in that extra car they ran. Not sure there's too many pictures of it, because maybe not too many people would have known that Rick made his championship. Well, actually, he did Queensland and Bathurst at Kmart Racing. So his first solo debut was at Sandown in 2001. So 2001, 2002 HRT, and then we got 2003, which we're gonna make this kind of orange. We'll change these two to red and make this 2003 for the PWR years. But some drivers just struggle at certain teams. But also maybe HRT wasn't that good when it came to running multiple cars, like, especially after Lowndesy left. Like once you lose a guy like Lowndesy, who's obviously incredibly talented, maybe it sort of shows like the team needs to do a better job. I did have something I was working on that was the number of front row starts? I think it was not, or front row lockouts. I think it was front row lockouts that HRT had. And those sorts of stats are interesting. I'll see if I can find it. Front row. No, hang on. Or is it 1-2s? Maybe it's 1-2s. Yeah, I updated this. The number of 1-2 finishes, because I thought, no, 888 were a lot better, but then I'm going back to HRT, 98, 99, they had a lot. 888 rarely got to that sort of level. 11 in 2016, that was probably the most dominant year. All the other years didn't happen anywhere near as often. FPR happened a few times, but not often enough. Obviously, 2015 it happened quite often. But HRT it happened very often. And then it was a bit fluky in the later years. Like it really didn't happen that often at all. But 97 to 2002, it happened quite often. But definitely in the Lowndes and Scafie years, they had a dream team going where they were just dominating. But HRT didn't get a 1-2 finish until 97. So it seems I might be wrong on that count. But yeah, I don't think DJR got any. Oh, they did. Was it 21? Was that the Darwin one? Might have been. Yeah, Stone Brothers did happen very often. HSV happened a couple of times. But yeah, that sort of thing was interesting because you think with all the domination that can happen, you go, oh, they're always getting 1-2s. But then you have a look at it and you go, oh no, they don't. They get like a 1-2 or a 1-3 or something. That might help. Or that might get like a 1-3 or a 2-3. That might happen a lot, but maybe not as often as a 1-2. That could be something else I could look into. Don't know if it really mattered that much, but yeah, something to think about. All right, 2003. Yeah, let's go. Bridie versus Paul Wheel. Bridie puts it on pole at Adelaide straight away. And I felt like Wheel was actually a pretty good driver. That's why he was signed to be alongside Marcus Ambrose in 2002. But I think Paul Wheel is like Simon Wills. Too much involvement in running his own team kind of ruined his career. I think for Wheel though, he was happy to go and do other things. He's a bit of like an all-rounder kind of guy. Not necessarily as talented as Simon Wills, but I think back in 2000, Paul Wheel was quite competitive. But maybe not incredibly talented. I don't know. I wonder if that was Paul Wheel's only podium. I don't think so. Paul Wheel also reminds me of John O'Webb because, you know, he sort of drove for his own team, but I think maybe Paul Wheel was more likable. There's like a few of those guys in history because Simon Wills, his dad ran Team Dynamic, and that was their baby. They made Team Dynamic, ran it for 3 years. The thing ended in a big court case with Tony Longhurst, and they didn't have much sponsorship at the start of 2003. But after Sandown, they got their first major sponsor. Because they had a big moment where their car was battling Mark Scaife for the win until Jason Richards beached it. Alright. Winton. Third up to second. It's impressive what Bridie was able to achieve at PWR. Because they didn't have a VY, but they had a VX, and they were racing against VYs all year. Well, I think Rick Kelly had a VX all year. Murph had a VX until Perth, I think. No, hang on. Murph got pole at Perth. Might have been a few rounds later. But HRT definitely started with VYs, and yeah, it's interesting. Maybe not too many cars in the field had VYs. Team Dynamic definitely did. Maybe that's why they were so impressive. Who knows? And I think Larry Perkins. I think he upgraded Richo's car to a VY, or both cars to a VY for Bathurst. I'm not sure. 16th to 5th for Wheel. Got different sponsors. One's got DuPont on Paul Wheels. Interesting. Perth, 5th down to 12th. That's not good. Oops. And Paul Wheel, 20th up to 13th. All right. 16th up to, or 13th up to 6th. Uh, 12th up to 10th. They're not having a great time in this one. But, you know, well, I mean, if you can qualify a 5th, you can race to 5th. Apparently, Bridie can't. 6th down to 7th. I think maybe next time I'll do my predictions for 2026. I don't know. We'll see what I feel like doing. Oops. But the PWR team was actually a merger of whoopsies. Team Brock, which featured Craig Baird in 2002. And that merged with PWR, and so it was called Team Brock, but the team was technically Paul Wheel Racing. And then they parted ways with Brock at the end of 2003. 6th up to 5th at QR. I noticed in the stats for 2002, Tony Longhurst completed the most kilometres in the 2002 season when he was driving for Briggs in the Better Electrical Falcon. And it was sort of surprising. I was like, oh, okay, because he wasn't that competitive, but he just finished a lot of laps and a lot of races. And so I think some races he finished like a lap down or something, but he was still getting a lot of kilometers done. He wasn't having like lap 1 crashes and lap 7 crashes and things like that. He was just getting some good kilometers done, a bit like Chris Pither in 2022. I thought it was interesting. I think Chris Pither didn't actually return after 2022. He hasn't driven Gen 3 at all, which is sort of surprising because you would have thought that after being a main driver in 22, maybe he would have got an opportunity for 23, but maybe he decided that he'd done his time in supercars, which is sort of sad because he hadn't done a lot of years. He first appeared at Team Kiwi Racing and was it Team Kiwi Racing? Yeah. To do the Bahrain round, I think, when they were going through drivers, I think it was 2006. And he was very young. I think he was 19 or something like that. And I think at the time he might have been a Utes driver. So he did that. I think for a couple of years, maybe Chris Pither did the Bahrain round for Team Kiwi, or was it just 06? Might have been just 06. And went away, came back. Don't know if he co-drove very much until 2015, when he appeared for Super Black in 2015 and replaced Andre Heimgartner. Then he did that full season 2016. And then 2017 he was with Dale Wood at Erebus. 2018 he was at Gary Rogers and paired with Garth Tander. And then 2019 with Richie Stanaway. And also Dylan O'Keefe, where Richie got he got replaced for Gold Coast, that one Gold Coast race. There's a bit of disciplinary action. And then 2020 came in at Team Sydney. And then 2021 he was with Macaulay Jones with the Coca-Cola colours, and then came back and did a full season at Premier Racing when Peter Chibris thought that Chris deserved a better opportunity. And it was interesting, like it was, where have I got it? I think it's in my 2023 numbers. It must be 2022 drivers ups and downs. I don't know if I finished it necessarily. Ooh, what have we got 2 going for? Alright, so I'm going to go find Chris Pither. So he actually out-qualified Gary Jacobson quite often. But once Jimmy Golding came in and started finding his feet, he started smashing Chris. But Chris he wasn't too bad, like qualified 11th there. He'd never qualified in the top 10, but I don't think Gary Jacobson ever did. Yeah, and that's probably why he got fired, because Pete probably felt, look, this car can do a better job. We know it. We literally just came from a round where you put it in the 10 consistently, not in qualifying, but in race trim. And then in comes, it's Townsville. Jimmy came through, and from Sandown onwards just started beating him, just out qualifying him all the time, and able to race into a couple of top 10 positions as well. So once that started happening, I was like, yeah, that's pretty justified. And yeah, after I obviously got a top 10 when the pile-up happened at the Gold Coast, and he managed to avoid it. But yeah, that's the story of Chris Pither. Alright, back 2003, Jason Bright. What's this, Queensland? We just did that, right? 65th, 24th to 10th, yep. Oran Park, a lot of single races, big long races too. Look at that, only 5 cars finished on the lead lap. That would explain why. I mean, Jason Richards, if he started 5th and finished 5th, he didn't race into that position or inherit the position. But it must have been a very interesting race. Or a very boring race, 111 laps at Oran Park. But, no, these people didn't lead laps or anything. Apart from Paul Morris qualified 3rd, that's pretty good. That's pretty good for him. Paul Morris is another one of those guys who was like, he was talented, but if he didn't run his own team, he might have been better. But like some of these guys are just so used to it, they don't go for the professional opportunity. But Paul obviously did become a co-driver and won Bathurst with FPR. So that was pretty impressive. A bunch of engines failing. 2 at DJR within 4 laps. That's brutal. Max Wilson is another one of those guys who's very fast, very impressive, but maybe I don't know, not consistent enough. Home Park. We got 19th to 16th. That's not a good time. And Brighty. 18th down to 19th. That's not very good. What's going on there? Sandown 500. Not a bad time, I guess. Greg Ritter and Marcus Marshall, 2003. That's interesting. Didn't know Marcus Marshall co-drive before he became main driver. We got Greg Ritter there in Paul Wheel Racing. I don't remember until that. What? 2002, he did a few wild cards for Dick Johnson Racing and featured in the top 15 shootout at Bathurst. Greg Ritter is probably one of those guys who he's an interesting guy, interesting history in the category. But watching like 2006 Bathurst, the number of times that car, that Greg Ritter and who was it? Greg Ritter and someone else just kept on getting in incidents. It's like you really don't need to be doing that. And somehow got kept for many years. 13th to 31st, that's bad. Mobile 1 with Super Sin. Interesting. Just for that one race, apparently. Where is it? The other car seemed to be doing better every time. But the first car, so 15th to crash. That's a shame. Not qualifying all that well. They just started having issues or something. You got Robert Jones. I like the wild cards I used to have at Bathurst. Just basically Super 2 cars rocking up, competing. But they must have been, like, I don't understand why you have to restrict it. Isn't the safety cars making the... So, could have maybe done better. Stayed fourth at Gold Coast. My goodness. I had a barbecue yesterday. Got very drunk. So I'm a bit tired, which is annoying. So it was like New Year's and getting my sleep back, and then big party yesterday. Not too many people, but we all got quite drunk, and yeah, just gotta lay in bed longer. But I woke up at 5:30, so whatever. Just get up and get it done. 25th up to 13th. Oops. I'm going to do 10 more minutes, and if no one has anything to say, then we'll wrap it up like we've been doing the last few weeks. Poor Wheel finishing ahead of Bridie. 13th down to 16th. I know Paul Wheeler, he wasn't too bad against. He did definitely. He got smashed by Murph in qualifying. It was 100% all Murph out qualifying Paul Wheel, but Paul Wheel wasn't bad at dragging the car up positions. He was actually a pretty solid racing driver. Just wasn't setting the world on fire pretty much. Fourth to crash. It's a shame. There's a few seasons that I like watching because it kind of feels like Christmas or something. It just feels like, look at all this exciting stuff going on. Look at all the pretty colors. There's a few seasons or races where you watch it and you're like, oh my God, there's this guy at that team and that guy at that team and this car with this colors and all this going on. And 2003 is one of those years. 2004 maybe one of those years. 2013 as well. And 2005 China. So not the full year of 2005, but maybe 2005. It's one of those great years as well. It's interesting, lots of interesting stuff going on. And for like so many of those things that were like sort of like one-time things that were happening at the time, just made it interesting. Coca-Cola. My God, Brighty. Good charge through the field. And now what? Phillip Island, Eastern Creek. Third up to second. I wonder if it wasn't for this terrible run of luck here. Crash here, getting spun at Pukekohe. He might have been closer in the championship. Because I think there were a couple of guys who were really in the mix in 03. Stephen Richards, Jason Bright, Marcus Ambrose, and Mark Scaife. But I think, because you say, oh, Ambrose was really good in 2003. He smashed everyone because of BA. And you go, well, hang on. He didn't like lead the championship start to end. He had to fight for it, and he wasn't like dominating all year. He didn't really dominate all year that often. But they said, oh, he was dominant in the BA. And it's like, I don't know if that's true. Dominant means like you can start down the back and then carve your way to the front. So you can have like last to first wins. That's dominant because that means it didn't matter where you started, you'd still win. Dominant is like Jamie Whincup 2009. Won the first after the. Did he win the first race of 2009? I think he did. He won both races at Adelaide 2009 and then just led the championship start to end. That's kind of rare. It really doesn't happen that often. Apart from 2019, Scott McLaughlin. SVG 2021. That's about it. I mean, off the top of my head. Like most years, the championship lead changes, and yeah, it's quite rare to have dominant performances from drivers. 29th to DNF. That's it. Was it fourth in the championship? And I think Paul Wheel might have been 16th or something, 13th. Not too bad. Probably could have been better. Might have been his best championship finish ever. A few top 10s, quite a few top 15s. Not too bad. Might have had a chance at finishing in the top 10 if he hadn't had that bad round at the end there. Bridie demolished Wheel in qualifying. I wonder how many drivers. I mean, that's like all of Wheel's teammates pretty much. 2003, 2004 Bridie, 2005 Murph, and he retired. Those are the only times that he had teammates. Anyway, that's it for today's stream. I'm going to wrap it up, continue chilling and not be forcing myself to talk. So, see you guys next time. Bye-bye.